In 2011, this man made a deal that had all of Hollywood laughing at him. He invested $500,000 into a ride-sharing app at a time when the company didn't even own a single vehicle. Today, that stake is worth more than all his combined earnings from 20 years of acting. Most people know him as a handsome model, or the guy who replaced Charlie Sheen in a hit sitcom. But while his colleagues were competing over the length of their yachts and the number of totaled supercars, Ashton Kutcher was sitting in the back row of tech conferences, hiding his face under a baseball cap and learning. He turned $30 million into $250 million in just 6 years. He was one of the first to believe in Uber, Airbnb, and Spotify. Today, he owns stakes in the companies shaping the future of artificial intelligence. How did a kid who spent his youth sweeping factory floors and selling blood just to buy food crack the code of Silicon Valley? Why did he officially cut his children out of his inheritance? And how are his investments saving thousands of lives today? To understand why Ashton Kutcher is investing millions into AI and safety today, we have to go back to 1978 to Cedar Rapids, Iowa. This is the heart of America's Rust Belt, where people don't dream of startups. They dream of a stable factory shift. Ashton was born into a classic blue-collar family. His father, Larry, spent his life working at General Mills, while his mother, Diane, worked the line at Procter & Gamble. In their house, money was never just an abstract number on a screen. It smelled like machine oil and industrial dust. But Ashton's greatest life lesson didn't come from finance. It came from his twin brother, Michael. Michael was born with cerebral palsy and a severe form of cardiomyopathy.
My brother had a heart transplant when we were 13. He had a cardiomyopathy, which is when it's a virus that attacks the muscle in the heart, and it breaks down the muscle and creates holes in the heart.
While other kids were out playing football, Ashton watched his brother fight for every breath. Every time Ashton left the house, he felt a massive sense of guilt for simply being healthy. This formed his first life principle. If someone near you has a problem, it is your duty to find a way to solve it. At 13, this philosophy met reality. Ashton wanted a snowmobile, a symbol of freedom for an Iowa teenager. But instead of asking his parents, who were struggling to make ends meet due to Michael's medical bills, Ashton created his first business plan.
You don't complain about things, you just go fix it.
For a year and a half, he worked relentlessly. He mowed lawns until dark after school. In the 95-degree summer heat, he hauled shingles onto roofs as a roofer's assistant. In the winter, he shoveled snow. When he finally handed over $1,400 in cash for a used snowmobile, he realized a vital truth. Labor is a universal currency. If you have no capital, you invest your time and your endurance. In 1996, Ashton enrolled at the University of Iowa. His choice of major, biochemical engineering, seemed strange for a future actor, but it was perfectly logical for Michael's brother. He wanted to understand the heart at a molecular level to save his twin.
My brother had a heart transplant when we were like 13, and I was like, I want to figure out how to keep that virus that attacked his heart from going into lysis.
But university cost money he didn't have. These were his darkest financial times. To pay his tuition, Ashton became a survival machine. In the summers, he returned to General Mills, but not to an office. He was at the bottom of the hierarchy. He swept grain dust in the factory, a job everyone hated because of the suffocating heat and intense allergies. It paid $12 an hour, which felt like a fortune to him at the time. When he didn't even have enough money for food, he visited plasma donation centers. The future most handsome man in Hollywood sat in line with the homeless and the struggling to sell his blood for $20 to $40. Quite literally, he invested his own flesh into his future. It was there, in those blood donation lines and dusty factory halls, that he developed a deep hatred for inefficiency. He saw how hard money was earned and how easily it was wasted. Later, in Silicon Valley, he would say, "I only invest in companies that save people time or solve their fundamental pain points." He remembered that for some, saving $10 is the price of their blood. In 1997, a stranger approached a tall, lanky biochemical student at a bar called The Airliner. It was a modeling scout who said the words that changed everything. "You don't have to sell blood to survive. Your face can earn you more than an engineering degree." For Ashton, it wasn't about vanity. It was about arbitrage. He calculated that a year of factory work would earn him the same as one successful week in New York. Math beat science. He dropped out of university and left with a single suitcase. In New York, Kutcher became an instant runway star, working for brands like Calvin Klein and Abercrombie and Fitch.
The people that you meet, the connections you make, it's the best.
A top model at his level in the late 90s could earn between $2,000 and $10,000 per day. Unlike his colleagues who blew their checks in Manhattan clubs, Ashton lived frugally. He understood that modeling was a short-lived career. A face is a depreciating asset that must be converted into something more durable. In 1998, he headed to Los Angeles for pilot season. On his first try, he landed the role of Michael Kelso in that 70s show. It was the jackpot.
I love this.
In the early seasons, the 20-year-old Ashton earned about $15,000 per episode. As the show became a cult hit, his salary skyrocketed to $250,000 to $350,000 per episode by 2005.
Look at my face. This is a face that did it.
During a standard 24-episode season, he was clearing roughly $8 million. But behind the scenes at Fox, Ashton noticed what other actors missed. He saw the hierarchy. The actor is a tool. The producer is the owner.
I just kept watching and trying to figure out how to get the job of the guy who was paying my check. And so I gradually figured that out and figured out that was the producer.
Instead of buying another mansion, in 2003, Ashton founded his own production company, Catalyst Media. His first major hit was Punk'd on MTV. This was a financial breakthrough. Ashton wasn't just reading lines anymore. He owned the intellectual property. He chose the advertisers, controlled the budgets, and earned royalties from every airing of the show worldwide.
I do want to get paid for this.
While critics mocked him for playing the handsome idiot in rom-coms like Dude, Where's My Car, and Just Married, Ashton was smiling at his financial reports. For The Butterfly Effect, he was not only the lead with a $1 million salary, but also an executive producer, earning a percentage of the profits. By the time he starred in Killers, his check had grown to $5 million.
It's me. I just have a different resume.
By the late 2000s, he had everything: fame, tens of millions in the bank, and sex symbol status. But the biochemical engineer inside him saw that Hollywood was a bubble. He saw the world changing with the iPhone and high-speed internet. He knew if he remained just an actor, his capital would wither with every new wrinkle. While his peers competed over yachts, Ashton spent his time flying to San Francisco to find the people writing code. In 2007, an event took place in Silicon Valley that went unnoticed by the tabloids, but became historic for Ashton's bank account. He invested in a startup called Ooma, an internet telephony service.
This is Ooma, the new internet phone service that lets you make local and long-distance calls anywhere in the US for free.
He didn't just write a check. He became the company's creative director. It was his first experiment. Could his fame help a tech product grow? The answer was yes. But Kutcher also realized that in the Valley, he was seen as a tourist. To become an insider, he had to stop talking and start listening. He found mentors like Mark Andreessen, the legend who created the first browser, and Ron Burkle, the billionaire expert in logistics. In 2009, he landed his first major win. Through Andreessen's fund, Ashton invested $1 million in Skype. At the time, it was a risk. The company was in a legal battle with its founders. But 18 months later, Microsoft bought Skype for $8.5 billion, tripling Ashton's investment in less than 2 years. The Valley finally recognized that the kid from Iowa had instincts. In 2010, alongside Guy Osery and Ron Burkle, he co-founded A-Grade Investments.
I called them up one day and with a really brilliant idea of us working together. And I said, we should just do this together. Yeah. And he said yes, and that's how we started A-Grade.
They raised $30 million and began hunting for unicorns. Think back to 2011. The idea of using your phone to call a private car driven by a stranger seemed crazy and dangerous. But Kutcher saw Travis Kalanick's pitch for Uber and realized it solved a fundamental logistics and time problem.
I was pitched Uber before Uber ever raised a single dollar.
He invested roughly $500,000. After Uber's IPO, that stake grew to over $50 million, a 100 times return. That same year, he backed Airbnb. To test the model, he didn't book a single hotel for a year, living exclusively in Airbnbs around the world to check everything from towel cleanliness to the payment system. He invested $2.5 million, and his stake grew tenfold, making him one of the most successful angel investors in the service's history. His secret? Added value. He told founders, "I won't just give you money, I'll give you access to my 10 million Twitter followers." He was the first person to reach 1 million followers, and he offered himself as a free marketing department in exchange for equity.
We don't claim to know as much as, a lot of people about, building technologies. But what we do know is that we will work our asses off on behalf of the companies we invest in. Yeah. And we will keep leaning and banging and banging and banging on whatever door they ask us to until one of those doors opens for them.
By 2015, A-Grade had turned $30 million into $250 million. Kutcher decided to go even bigger, launching Sound Ventures. Now, he wasn't just managing his own money. He was managing capital for major corporations and sovereign wealth funds. By 2023, while the rest of the world was just starting to play with chatbots, Kutcher had already closed a $243 million fund dedicated to AI, backing giants like OpenAI, Anthropic, and Stability AI. After earning hundreds of millions, most stars buy private jets. But Ashton chose a different path, a manifesto of pragmatism born in Iowa. His primary residence in Beverly Hills, built over 5 years with his wife Mila Kunis, is a project called Cuckoo Farms. It's a modern barn built entirely from sustainable materials. The solar panels on the roof generate more energy than the house consumes. Ashton wanted his children to see how food grows and understand the value of resources. There are no gold toilets here, but there is a water recycling system for their own vegetable garden. His most radical financial decision involves his children. Ashton shocked the public by stating, "I am not setting up trust funds for my kids." His logic is simple. They are already living a life of massive privilege. If they have a business idea, I'll invest in them like any other startup, but I won't just give them money because they are my children.
If my kids want to start a business and they have a good business plan, I'll invest in it.
Yeah.
But they're not getting trust. They're not going to get, so hopefully they'll be motivated to have what they had or some version of what they had.
He fears that easy money will kill the drive that once forced him to sweep factory floors. So where do the millions go? This leads to the most important project of his life, Thorn. This isn't just a charity, it's a tech company. Ashton used his Valley connections and personal funds to hire top engineers to build Spotlight, an AI-driven software that analyzes millions of online ads to track human traffickers and rescue children from sexual slavery.
It's a tool that can be used by law enforcement to prioritize their caseload. It's a neural net. It gets smarter over time. It gets better and it gets more efficient as people use it. And it's working.
As a result, law enforcement in the US and Europe has reduced the time it takes to find victims by 60%. Over 10 years, the system has helped identify thousands of victims. For Ashton, this is the ultimate investment, using AI not to order pizza faster, but to solve one of humanity's darkest problems. Personally, Kutcher remains a tech minimalist. He was an early Tesla fan, owning a Model S and a Model X to support innovation, not for status. He has no private yacht, calling it a hole in the budget. If he wants to be on the water, he rents a boat. The more efficient allocation of capital. Ashton Kutcher proved that acting is just the first stage of a rocket. Once it gets you into orbit, you discard it to fly further on the engines of your own intellect and capital. His story teaches us 3 things. 1. Listen more than you speak. He became a billionaire in the Valley because he was the quietest person in the room. 2. Invest in solving problems. Money flows where chaos is removed. 3. Don't let capital stagnate. Every dollar should either save the world or build the future. Next time you see him in an old comedy, remember, you're not just looking at an actor. You're looking at a man who owns a piece of your smartphone, your taxi, and perhaps the AI-driven future we are all moving toward. What part of his story impressed you most? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe. We're just getting started breaking down the wallets of those who change the world.